What's up, everybody? Welcome to the losers bracket. It's CLG versus Evil Geniuses.
Welcome to the losers
bracket. Hey, that's what it's traditionally called.
Losers.
That's what it's traditionally called. All right, we can call it lower bracket, bottom bracket. Nice. All right, you guys can say what you want. All right.
I appreciate it. He keeps it real. It's not like the lower bracket.
It is what it is. You can call it what you want. I switch between the three. It's like when I call Shaco and Shako.
Vagar?
Exactly.
Okay, one of them.
Varus, Varus.
Okay, Varus, Varus. It's not like Varus. It's loser Varus. There's a difference.
This Varus is obviously inferior.
They're fighting to be in the championships. We'll get there when we get there.
Isn't he 2 men and 1 guy, too?
Who? Oh, Varus? Yes, he is. He is.
Loser
so he has like 2 peoples in his thoughts. Anyways, welcome. We have Revenge with us today.
Hi, guys. Hello.
What's up?
Here.
Welcome.
I guess something they want to clap for that.
I'm not. Okay, I appreciate it, Mark. Honestly, we're memeing about it, but these matches, at least from, as a pro player, these are the most entertaining to watch because everyone, you're going to be in off season after this if you lose, Like,
yes.
We just watched Doublelift and Bjergsen get eliminated yesterday, and then, yeah, I think like everyone wants to see both these teams go really far. So the fact that one of them just is out is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like, I enjoy, just like the last series, you kind of mentioned it already. Yeah. The stakes are high. Whenever you watch the top, the winners bracket, a lot of the times you're like, okay, high quality matches, but you have a second chance. So traditionally these type of playoff brackets, it's like, I want to see real stakes on the line.
Yeah, the do or die component. I know you were really excited about something that happened in Game 5 with the 6A going in.
Dude, yeah, that was one of the craziest plays I've ever seen. I mean, it was like close to as hype as like the Danny pentakill in Baron, because it was like so high stakes. Like Licorice was pushing mid. I was like, oh my God, they have to go defend him. Like, but it's fine. Like, they're gonna, I was kind of like easing into it. I'm like, they're gonna be okay. Like, they still have soul. They're still gonna like probably win the game. And then, boom, like Doublelift dies and 6A lives. And I'm like, wow, how did he see that angle? Like, I need to watch that again. And
it's crazier because like obviously the Danny Penta from last year's playoffs had a bigger payoff. It was like a Baron steal and a pentakill.
Yeah.
But in 10 times out of 10, like your team is all dead. You need to stop them from going Baron. Like, you're gonna try the play, and like if it goes wrong, no one's gonna try and ruin your career. But like literally, if 6A just goes in 1v5 when it's both and kills himself, and they lose a series and they get eliminated, like that is, there are players that this has happened to, right? That's like a Cody Sun moment. That's et cetera, et cetera.
It's career defining.
It's career defining. So to be able to actually have the guts to do it and then pull it off, it's like an under-celebrated moment.
Yeah. I will say, though, there's a lot to get into it, and we'll have a lot to talk about. But for now, of course, before we get into today's matchup, we still have actually NACL playoffs that are underway. So we have a video to look at. Let's check it out.
Hello and welcome to another NA Talent Update. We're well into the Challengers League playoffs and we've already eliminated 12 teams. This leaves us with the top 4, so I recruited some help to tell you their stories. Let's throw it to Magical, who's floating on Cloud 9.
Is that C9 mascot Paul the Cloud?
Hey, Magical. I haven't seen you since C9 ran their own Academy streams.
Oh, yeah. Have you been watching them at all?
No. How are they doing?
Cloud9 Challengers came in as the first seed, and they haven't dropped a single game.
Wow.
Lost and Zazel are back in form, and they are the best bot lane we have in the entire tournament. They even took down the defending champions and Team Liquid Challengers in the second round. They are the clear favorites to win it all. By the way, how do I get down from here?
I don't even know how you got up here.
Well, Cloud9 might be flying high, but they're not the only team remaining in the upper bracket, as Dignitas Challengers will contest them for the first spot in the Grand Finals. So let's throw it over to Beatdown to see how good they've looked doing it.
I'm the Rizzler, and we're in the rizziest time of year, playoffs. Now I'm here to teach you how to pick up digits, like Dignitas pick up wins. Damn, girl, call me a fish, cause you got me hooked. It said the best relationships are all about balance, and baby, they call me the equalizer. You believe in love at first team fight? Or should we meet back in the mid lane and do it all again?
She still hasn't texted me back, but you know who I always can rely on is Team Liquid developmental rosters. So here's Mazel trying to teach an old horse new tricks.
When you're training a prize stallion, you gotta make sure you show them some tender love and care.
This particular stallion won 2 blue ribbons just last year.
And they'll take the Proving Grounds title here in 2022.
But that don't mean they can rest easy on their way to a 3rd ribbon.
And that's the game and series for Cloud9.
And just like Seabiscuit, Blue's gonna jump straight over the competition.
And to the top 8 they go!
History! This series is just that! TLC, move on in the lower bracket.
But the real story captured our hearts is the only provisional team to break into the top 4. And they also might be the best sports team in their city.
Yo, hey gamers, Dude Lando's back again. This time, we're in Cincinnati checking out some of that barbecue and their sports team, who unfortunately all suck. Except for Cincinnati Fear. Fear's proven they're so goddamn good at cooking, they can't even cook with these ingredients anymore. But fortunately for them, they got creative with the Vanguard Tristana double flex in their Game 5 against FlyQuest, who forgot the magic damage, also known as the spice. When you throw everything together on the Rift and mix it up real good, you get that wild milk combo that's bringing home that sweet delicious barbecue the Cincinnati Fear was looking for. We'll see more of them in top 4 against rival network TLC.
Well, thanks for tuning in to another NA Talent Update. Make sure to tune in Monday and Tuesday for the upper bracket finals and lower bracket semis. And as always, may your week be filled with positive gaming experiences.
Thanks a lot, Kangas, on that one. As we look at the playoff bracket, as you can see, the reason why C9 is going on and going forward, and CLG is now in the losers bracket.
Because C9 are winners.
True.
They're in the winners, good kids get ice cream bracket.
Oh, yeah. Champions.
Yeah. Unlike CLG in the losers. Walk home.
You guys are acting like this is the first time you've ever heard a losers bracket before.
It's because your intro was welcome to
the
losers.
losers day.
Oh my God, I didn't say day. You're making it worse, all right? But yes, C9 versus CLG. Actually, Mo, you watched this series. What was your thoughts?
So honestly, I thought that the games were way closer than I thought they would be, and I want to give a huge props to C9 for how they were actually drafting a lot of their games, because they showed a lot of different variation in styles they can play, which is like a huge relief for, I think, a lot of NA teams, because we're talking about them being in the winners bracket. One more win and we're sending this team internationally. Like, we want to be able to see them actually play this kind of way against some of the Korean teams, Chinese teams who are going to definitely be matching them in this style.
True.
Yeah. I think it was cool also hearing from the C9 guys, not just because I think the drafts in this game are going to be, like, today's drafts are going to be closer to the drafts in this game than they were to any of the 100 Thieves matches. But it was cool to hear from the C9 guys afterwards, because they're like, actually, CLG's early game specifically, like they cited Contractz, but just generally CLG's early game, they were like, it did test us. It pushed us a lot more than we thought it would.
Yeah, I think it was nice to see CLG kind of keep the momentum from week 8, even though they didn't win this series. It did feel like, okay, it wasn't like a fraudulent little win streak at the end of the split. They actually can, when they're playing well, go toe-to-toe with a lot of the best teams in the LCS, and that does make it an interesting matchup a little bit for today, knowing like EG's been on the other side of that. Like, how good are they actually with all the playing from home and stuff like that?
Yeah, and just thinking a little bit about C9, I remember like post-game on that one, during the interview, they were not impressed with their own work. And I like to see that generally when, even after a win, you're still beating yourself up. You're like, no, we definitely expect better from ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that just makes me more excited for that FlyQuest game in the winners final. So that's something to me I'm looking out for. But yes, this was a series. It was funny to me seeing the Sion play that it worked. They looked for the dive bot lane. It worked even through some of the mishaps.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw it earlier in the clips. I mean, right now they're diving top, but Contractz was ganking bot lane around level 3, level 4, and it was working like almost every single game. Like, he was really targeting that C9 bot lane, who was, I mean, I thought like the MVPs of the series, they were carrying super hard. And I mean, even this game, this is game 4, right? Like, I thought this was for sure going to be a CLG win. And I mean, they ended up blundering some fights, and Berserker ended up carrying the game on his, famous Zeri, right? So,
true.
Yeah.
And let's just actually take a look at the Samsung Fast 5 right now on this one. It's just going to be of the 2 competitors and the league average overall. So league average over a lot of these players. But Jojopyun, a lot of people are actually very interested in. We will be talking about him as the series goes on, because of course EG was not here.
I'm sorry, it's just so funny seeing the LCS average better than them in 3 categories. I'm like, wait, these teams suck.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats in general may not be indicative of the actual performances, but like, I'm interested in the storyline for Jojo, who I think has been up and down for the split, but if he has a great playoffs, that can change the discussion around him entirely.
I definitely think the Jojo hate has gotten a bit, out of hand. I mean, he definitely has costed them a lot of games toward the end. We don't really know the factors involved in that. Like, he was the one that initially got COVID, I heard, and he was, playing from home. He was really sick. He wasn't going outside. And a lot of these things like definitely impact someone's performance. But I thought that before he was having like his really bad games, I think in week 8, he was ramping up. Like he had that really insane Akali game against TSM.
Yeah.
He, you know, I thought he was laning really well overall. His team play was good. I do think it's justified. You know, he's lost some games. I will definitely say that. But you can't discredit him for still being like a really good player. And I think he's going to show up today.
Yep. And for people at home, please use code SSD990 LCS through April 9th to get 20% off your 990 Pro 1 and 2. I'm really bad at building my own PCs in general. For you people out there, it's pretty nice. That being said, let's just look at the team arrivals. One thing to make note of, EG's here!
Thank God
They're in
here.
studio!
You love to see it, man. You love to see it.
Oh my God, this man's walking with the purpose.
What's he drinking? That's a Starbucks. I recognize that.
Oh, look at Luger rocking the sunglass. Oh my God.
Oh my God, the style. I mean, he's got to play in white tee, but that's fine.
Christian Palafox.
Christian looking like a stage manager. In all black. Don't show up on camera.
What's this?
Contract's the only one that.
Whoa, what's going on over here?
Oh!
Big Dokes. Big Dokes.
What's wrong with Poome's ankles?
Big Dokes.
Can't he walk himself?
True.
He's the star of the
little
team.
bit of a
He's
tough
earned
Golden
it.
guy that was with Golden Guardians yesterday.
This is foreshadowing. This is foreshadowing Dhokla playing the carries today. It's foreshadowing it.
Get on my back.
He's carrying.
On
That's
Sion,
not a
on
Sion.
Gwen, who knows, right?
That was not a Sion there.
And we were just talking about the in-studio buff comparison to them being at home.
Real, man.
Yes.
Yeah, so 9-4 when they're in studio, 1-5 from home. This actually doesn't count the week 3 game when they're at home, I believe, but they were so much worse when there's a couple different things that go into this, I think. One, they were actually sick. We even heard Jojo a week after he was missing a game for being sick. But 2, I would say even back to, say, Spring Split of 2022 when there was a lot of LCS from home, EG was always that, like, team that just didn't, they were 9-9 when LCS was at home. And then as soon as they're in person, they're winning an LCS title. So I think there's actually a really high chance that being on stage allows them to lock in, and being at home, it's just really hard for them to lock in.
Yeah. Even before he came into the LCS, Jojo cited like the competitive nature of League competition as the thing he liked most about playing League of Legends. He's like, I don't like the solo queue aspect as much as I nearly like being on stage and playing competitively. That is a driver for not only for him, it seems like the rest of EG. He even, when I talked to him in the Player of the Week interview, he said as much. So we'll take a listen to that.
I know you guys have been playing from the facility. I've previously talked to you a lot about how much you specifically love and thrive off of competition. So what has it been like playing from the facility versus playing on stage?
I mean, playing from home definitely sucks because it just feels like it's not a real LCS game. It kind of feels like a scrim game. So I feel like it's not as competitive. Obviously, it's the same stakes.
You know, that's pretty interesting because I remember reading what Rigby, their coach from last year, he kind of gave like feedback to a lot of the players and like kind of went more, became more insightful for their players. You can probably check that out. It's like a Reddit post or something. But anyway, he talked about how Jojo after MSI kind of struggled with kind of what you guys were talking about, where he didn't feel like the competition was, you know, like enough for him in NA, and he kind of lost kind of that motivation and was playing worse. And I think that him losing and kind of getting flamed and this kind of stuff, it's actually a good like character development as a rookie. It's pretty important actually. Like it kind of actually, it's up to him how he bounces back from this.
Yeah.
Some people who aren't competitive or, you know, just depending on their personality, they might get crushed by it and not come back. But I think he's shown he's a really competitive person. I think that maybe this will be like good motivation for him.
I think we were going the same place. There's a lot of traditional sports players who, over the time of their careers, needed to find ways to juice them up for regular season games
motivated.
and stuff. Yeah, so they would like, give me all these scoring records in this building, or like, tell me some trash talk this guy said about me. Like, they would jazz themselves up to be motivated to play that regular season game, which can kind of get lost in the weeds when you are so successful.
Yeah, I was going to relate it. You and me were talking about caffeine earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Well, literally, like, if you have a coffee every day, then the caffeine doesn't give you the same boost. But in the same way, like, Jojo, when he was having his first split in the LCS, was like, this is the peak of my competition. Yeah. He beats it, he goes international, he's like, this is the new level. And, like, he's like overdosed on competition. So when he comes back, it's just like no effect. And Doublelift is actually the same way. Like when I talked to him, he was totally remotivated after having like 2 years off, even though he's won the league like 7 times because he almost like detoxed from competition for 2 years, and now he's back at it. So I don't know, it's interesting.
So Mo, you played in the secondary league, and also I'm sure in the LCS there have been times when you've played at home. So just in general, like, have you been able to keep the same focus? Do you feel like you're a better player on stage in comparison to at home?
I definitely feel like I get more prepared when I'm playing on stage. Like, there's like a whole routine we kind of go through as players. Like, we have to drive to the studio from our office. We kind of come together as players. We're all together as players. We're listening to music. We sit in the LCS room beforehand. We're watching the games all together and stuff like that. It's way different when you're just kind of like in your office. You're kind of just, or facility, whatever. You're just kind of sitting there. You can do anything. You can kind of go around. You can watch the games together. But there's not like this like routine scheduling, kind of like leaving the space where you're scrimming. That kind of changes the importance for you, or for me at least. And I feel like when you're getting on stage, you have that adrenaline, you have that like seriousness, and it's real. Like, it is definitely real. And for some players, like a lot of people were talking about this during like when COVID was happening. It's like, this is a buff for rookies, right? Because you guys are not experiencing this. But I actually think it might hurt some players because you go on stage and you're more nervous, right? But I think that a lot of people do get benefits from that change.
Yeah, and so let's just talk about EG a little bit, because it's easy to forget about the body of work that they've had throughout the split because of the recency. But let's just take a look. That's hard. English is difficult, ladies and gentlemen. Of their All-Pro. Because Vulcan ends up getting support first team All-Pro, recognized for just how good he's been all split. How do you guys feel about EG players? Because he got first team All-Pro, and we can just keep rolling the full All-Pro list. Talk about the EG players overall.
Yeah, I mean, I was very hot on the EG guys. They were 10-5 through the first 7 weeks of the regular season before that kind of like doomed week 8 happened. They dropped from 3rd to 5th in the actual standings. But like, they were a very, very good team. We saw that they were first in goal difference at 14. They were extremely aggressive early game. They did have their struggles mid to late all season long, but I think individually they are extremely stacked.
Yeah, I mean, there's Ssumday and Inspired as well on top and jungle. I mean, yeah, a lot of these players are, really damn good. And I feel like it is crazy to think that they're entering playoffs in this kind of position, especially given that they were 10-5 at one point, where a week remaining, right? Like, or was it 2 weeks remaining?
That was at the end of week
7.
That was
1 week remaining. They were like alone in 3rd, basically.
Right, like everyone assumed that this team was maybe going to make a push for the top 2, or to think that they're in this position is crazy given how talented some of their players are. And I mean, Inspired especially, like this guy, I think a lot of people will agree when he's playing his best is definitely the best or one of the best junglers in the world. So, I definitely think that he should not be slept on. And I'm curious to see if they, use this week off to like recover and like, work on their problems, right? Because like, we don't want to use the fact that they were at home as like a full excuse for their gameplay. Like, they weren't playing
They
well.
were still using the mouse and keyboard.
They were still, come on, like, just when COVID happened and we were playing from home, some players were sick and some players were still playing well, right? Like, it's not a full excuse, so we do need to see if they actually did fix their issues, because every team has issues. And
yes, I completely agree on that. In fact, I'll say about myself, I just thought it was just one person that was sick. I thought it was like, because Jojo was the one that was at home initially. But apparently it ravaged quite a few people.
I think it was 3 of the 5 of them.
Yes, it was. Yeah. And so like, that does a lot for your team. So like, you can kind of use it as an excuse. And I hope that they kind of use it as an excuse and saying, things are different, push a reset button and move on forward. And they're going to be facing CLG today. CLG, a team that's actually known for their creativity.
Yeah, and I think I already said this earlier today, but the 100 Thieves games are bait in terms of what we will see from draft from this series. I think you have to look at the CLG C9 series. Behind us, we have C9 and CLG drafts in Game 2. I thought these were really interesting drafts, specifically because I think we're going to see Jace Prio back. Here, get that back.
Oh, yeah, why not?
Around.
Yeah,
this guy, he's coming back. Super strong flex pick. I think that obviously EG has focused highly on. And the other cool thing that came out of this draft actually was this was the draft that C9 decided to flex Cassante mid and go Kennen to try to get better lane matchups. And CLG actually did a really good job getting Dhokla and Palafox, specifically the Gwen into the K'Sante, so that she was not set far behind, no matter how many times C9 tried to like swap their lane assignments. So I thought that was a really cool look from CLG. Sometimes they sprinted a little bit in draft. In fact, I believe it was a draft against EG, the Kalista draft, where they didn't end up having a lot of damage. Yeah. So occasionally that happens, but I do think these are both teams that you will see solo lane flexes. I think you could see more carry tops from them, which will be really cool because that's something that was kind of missing from both 100 Thieves series we saw. And yeah, I really want to see A, higher Jace prio, but B, if CLG are going to win, because I'm not sure if we're still considering this an upset, but I do think the draft creativity they can have between their two solo laners is massive.
I will say I definitely expect to see, I could probably list like 6 top laners from Ssumday that I think he's like quite comfortable on, and it's going to be like Renekton, Gnar, Kennen, because I do know he once was like a pretty, he played a lot of Kennen, Jax, Gwen, and K'Sante. I expect these 6 to be played more. I do hope to see a bit less of the Sion prio coming from him because I just feel like, I just think that right now he would, like, given his consistency in play, he'll look way better on something like K'Sante instead, or the other champions I listed, because I do feel like EG could use that extra kick of like that extra, push from him to carry games.
That makes sense to me. And I actually like the point that you made, Emily, as well, about just the creativity that they have in draft. I actually pulled that Game 2 draft, that one moment within the Drake fight, the winning play that they had, so why not just get on up and show people. Let's quickly talk about it. And it actually starts with a mistake from the team. So, yes, surprise, surprise, it's not a clean game. This is actually the Drake fight that CLG is contesting here. 3rd Drake for C9, all this and, whatever, let's just start playing it. So Luger makes the first mistake by walking way too far forward and actually gets completely chunked and has to come out of the fight. So you pause frame on this one, you're like, okay, this seems pretty doomed. Like immediately you're like, oh, that just sounds like it's gonna be endgame. That your AD carry is already out of the fight. But if you watch this team fight overall, it's not that simple. As you see, CLG start to press forward. Palafox takes an angle, and so C9 actually lose position a little bit and allow Luger to walk into the pit. Now, Zeri sometimes can be a little bit BS, is trying to lifesteal under here. And so while C9 specifically is trying to push him out, one thing to take note of is Luger has flash, Poome is right next to him with heal and ulti, and Dhokla is completely focusing Fudge, who's on Kennen, who's trying to start the fight. So it's much harder of a fight for C9 than they anticipate. And so, as we move on with this fight, they back away completely and try and protect Fudge. They lose position on towards the dragon. Luger actually lifesteals quite a bit and pushes him off. And even though you can see right here, C9 tried to push for a fight. Fudge looks for it, even though he's half HP. He gets Lulu ulti, so he gets knocked up, slowed. He completely basically loses the fight off of that, and CLG can start to clean up. Great shock blast from Palafox to slow all 3 members down, and they can clean up. So yes, the play starts with a mistake, but something to highlight is the fact that CLG are one of the rare teams, I'm not gonna say only teams, rare teams that takes fights in a creative angle. It's Gwen, it's Jace. Jace, the pick that they flex quite a bit. And so it's not a stock standard front to back. They take it at an angle, make it more chaotic, and force you to think a little bit harder how to take fights.
Yeah, I mean, watching that though was quite disappointing.
Yes.
Like from a top laner perspective, like I really didn't.
Front door cannon just charge it through.
I really didn't like that Fudge initially backed off when Gwen went in. I actually think he had an angle to R flash on them. I think that staying like just kind of when. Because like a lot of times when Zeri and even champions like Gwen, they start the fight, you want to kite because of their ultimates. Like Gwen has ulti, Zeri has ulti, you want to kite out. But I just don't think that because of the dragon condition that they had the option to do that. And like what I would have wanted to see there is K'Sante going in, K'Santeing the Zeri out of the pit while Fudge flashes in and kills the Lulu and who was next to her? I think it was Jungle as well.
Yeah, it was
he had that angle and they could have actually just temporarily ignored Gwen, kited her with Lucian. That fight, especially because Jace was kind of like behind the wall, I thought was insanely favorable for C9 if Fudge pulled that trigger and kind of forced him to go in. I mean, that's where the thing where you don't really know. Like maybe someone in the team was strong calling back, but that's like one of those in the moment things where you kind of have to, I think, take charge as a player, dominate the team fight because you are Kennen. You when you see those angles, you have to take them, you know, and
100%. And we're probably going to see a lot more of those today. But something I do want to see right now. Chat stats.
Chat stats. Mark flamed me for a logo. I didn't have a good intro yesterday. I have a better one today.
Did you pay Rafa to do this?
I mean, I may have asked Rafa to do it. There may not have been any funds.
You didn't pay him for his work?
It's
stealing artist work. Oh my God.
We only don't have much time. I can't even answer that question. So, with an average game time of 37.6 minutes and the lowest combined kills per minute in the league at 0.66, this team still made playoffs. So who was it? CLG, EG, or 100 Thieves?
I think 100 Thieves.
Longest games, lowest combined kills.
100 Thieves, easy.
I think it has to be 100. What do you think, Revenge?
I'm between CLG and 100.
None of you are correct.
What?
It's EG.
EG?
Has the longest games and the lowest combined kills.
No, that makes sense. Longest games made sense. It was the combined kills.
Yeah, I thought they were bloodier.
They're playing today. We'll see. Maybe it'll be boring. Okay, that'll hype up the series. Across all of their starting roster, CLG has 0 LCS titles. How many total LCS titles does EG have?
The players on EG have?
Yeah.
Oh. You can't LEC for Inspired?
No,
LCS.
Just LCS titles.
One for Ssumday, one for Inspired, one for Jojo. Vulcan has 4.
3, yeah.
Wait, is it only one for
7?
Vulcan. Oh, you're
FBI.
right.
Oh, FBI has 8.
Vulcan has 4.
Does he? He doesn't have 3
I think
on
he has
C9?
3.
3 on C9 and 1 on E?
I hope it's 3. It's 7. The answer's 7.
Oh, damn it. Maybe I overestimated Vulcan.
Too good. What the?
Okay, need to be quick with this last one. So, a player has averaged more than 31% of their team's deaths 4 times in LCS history. 2 of them were in today's series, and 1 of them did it this split. Who's the one who did it this
split? This is Jojo, isn't it? This is a Jojo
Yeah, it's Jojo.
But can you guess the other player? Can you guess the other player?
2 of them are in today's
So someone else in this game has, at one point, averaged more than 30%.
Contractz.
Nice.
Oh my God,
So this is funny. Here's the top 4, actually. Impact has the other top 2.
Yeah.
Nice.
Impact's a feeder.
Yeah.
You just know more about Contractz.
He was a player in 15 and 3
What
summer
was
TL.
from last year for him?
It was 2018 summer. Wait, he played on
Golden Guardians.
Oh,
yeah. And he
okay.
just inches his face off of
I thought it was the spring split of
the CLG one, yeah.
But what's really interesting about that list to me, though, is like the 2 Impact years, he was on good teams.
Yeah.
Both those teams won like 15 games.
It's because people weren't dying around him, so he's the only one dying.
It doesn't necessarily mean you're running it
Especially
down.
if he's initiating fights as top laner, like,
I wish we could know what the meta was at the time. I'm actually really curious if it was
We'll get into it after.
Something I am curious about, because we are now 1 minute until the actual game starts, what your predictions are. So let's see what the prediction graphic would look like.
Ooh.
Wow.
Oh.
Different.
It's all EG.
Oh my God.
Close.
Oh,
Makes it look
CLG's
rude.
so happy right now, aren't they?
What is this
But they like this.
This
Okay,
is
they want
their
to be
comfort
done. Yes,
zone.
this is their comfort zone.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can understand myself. Revenge and Emily saying 3-2, thinking it's close. Jet and Mark.
Wow.
You guys think it's a stump?
I've gotten every series correct so far within 1 game.
Same.
So maybe it's a 3-1. That's as bad as I can possibly do for you.
I will say, okay, my reasoning for
Whoa.
this is
okay.
Wow.
And it's CLG favored.
I do not mean this as a slight to CLG in my 3-0 prediction.
Sounds like a slight.
But I said this going into the playoffs that I think CLG just got really unlucky. They played C9 in round 1, who I consider the best team in the LCS. And I think if EG is in form, they are the 2nd best team in the LCS.
Okay.
So I think EG is going to win this series through, and I think they're going to make it to finals.
2nd.
Wow.
I love the disparity of just like the contrast of opinions on this one. But the series is about to start. Why not hand it to the casters, Kobe and Captainflowers?
Let's go.
and gentlemen, welcome back to the LCS playoffs here in spring 2023. Yesterday, we said goodbye to the first of our 6 playoff teams. If you missed that one, go back and watch the VOD, because a lot of you are going to be surprised. But today, it's time for us to say goodbye to another CLG and EG. Going head-to-head here in a best-of-5 to see who goes on and who goes home. I'm Captainflowers, this is Kobe, and this is CLG versus EG Game 1.
Oh, and it is good to see the Evil Geniuses players back in the studio, Flowers.
Yeah, buddy.
Finally, we get the reveal of our last team of playoffs, our final team to perform here in front of the studio. And look at those smiles. They have recovered from the sickness. Have they recovered their gameplay, though? This has been one of the teams that had such a strong start, and then so many things happened. EG, towards the last few weeks of the LCS, really falling down. They had to deal with COVID, had to deal with a bunch of things. Jojo is having some poor performances, but they have had a long time to practice here leading up to this reveal. And now we're getting right into Champ Select.
And I think everybody wants to see this team return to the form where they look like the EG that you would expect, right? These past couple of weeks have felt really bad. The remote play, the sickness, they've had a lot of things going on, and I hope they've got them all dialed in and fixed up. It's Thresh, Varus, Maokai, Sejuani, Elise, and Annie banned out here in the first part of the draft. CLG will lock in the Vi for Contractz before anything else.
And the choice here is between Zeri versus Xayah. Both of those really, really powerful AD carries right now. You would think if you're looking and you're staring down the barrel of a Vi, a point-and-click Flowers, you're gonna go with the Xayah for the counter engage. So I would assume that EG would want FBI on the Xayah Rakan, and then they kind of hover over the Rakan there. But they grab jungle first instead. So I feel like on the flip side here for CLG, the Zeri Lulu looks very, very promising. They've already got the Vi themselves. That's fine into the Wu.
And Wukong has been very popular here recently in the LCS. Very powerful jungler in a lot of different hands. Yoink. But the Zeri picked up, denying exactly what you're talking about. The opportunity for the Zeri Lulu. They know that they don't have that single target lockdown in the Vi. They don't want that going over to CLG.
All right, so even staring down the barrel of a Vi ult right on top of them, they don't care. They picked the Zeri. Will probably be followed by that Lulu, and does CLG want to do the Xayah side of it instead? I much prefer this to the Lucian Nami. They go with the Jinx. Flowers, did you watch yesterday? Jinx was so cursed.
I watched yesterday, and that's a 31% win rate on this champion because it has not been working out so hot being locked in thus far.
I will say that Luger has definitely been a very good Jinx player, but they also self-banned the Thresh. So there's no Thresh to keep the Jinx safe. So then you think of stuff like Tom Kench maybe to keep that Jinx safe and have that Devour. Really though, CLG with Palafox on Taliyah, this has been one of their best combos. Them and I think TSM were the two best users of Vi plus Taliyah. You ultimate with Vi, they are held in place, easily able to hit that seismic shove. So Palafox and Contractz can link up again. CLG have definitely looked at their best when those two players have synergistic champions and can combine for some jungle mid 2v2.
Well, with the mid laner locked in for CLG, Evil Geniuses did not want to allow the pool to get pinched any further before locking in theirs as well. So it's going to be Ahri here for Jojo. The interesting thing, and we do not see this very often these days, is both sides drafted 80 carries without the supports next to them here in the first half of the draft. So expect to see some of those enchanters. Expect to see some of those hyper carry buddies banned away. Renata Glass taken out by EG. I expect to see the Lulu banned away from the Zeri here by CLG. Supports are on the menu, boys.
Yeah, Lulu and Soraka have been two of the biggest ones to play along with the Zeri. Definitely a flexible AD carry though. And they ban out the Blitz. They ban out the Blitz. Luger doesn't want to have to be so careful with his positioning. Remember Jinx from yesterday, exploited over and over and over and over again by a lot of dive champions. Basically executing whatever gold lead you had on that Jinx.
Yeah.
Making it worth nothing. So CLG banning out some of the more aggressive stuff here instead of the defensive option like the Lulu.
Well, the Gwen will be banned out by EG. Looking across the map instead, neither side has a top laner either. So it's got to be supports, it's got to be tops getting banned out here. I do fully expect this last ban to be the Lulu, just because Zeri and Lulu are so often picked together. I'd be surprised to not see CLG want to separate that.
Yeah, the late game is just so powerful when you have the Lulu complementing a hyper mobile, hyper carry like the Zeri. But are they worried about some more hard age stuff? And they even ban out the Garen. Ssumday did play the Garen, the first ever Garen in the history of the LCS. And they did win with it. So a Garen ban also signals that you want to possibly pick Dhokla, something like the Cassante. It is definitely a little bit of a protection in that case, since Garen's ultimate can just execute Cassante after he loses a bunch of his life on his own ultimates. And they go for that Rakan that they were hovering and toying around with earlier. There's a lot of dive here on this EG team. There's a lot of backline access with a Rakan, a Wukong, and an Ahri. Luger is going to have to really be careful with his positioning on this Jinx. They grab the Lulu for themselves for that defensive capability.
And they'll lock in the Sion here as well. Now let's go back and think about CLG's series against Cloud9 just a couple of days ago, because there were 4 games in that series, and if I recall correctly, Dhokla was on Sion in 3 of them. Those happened to be the 3 games CLG lost. He looked much better in the Gwen game. We could visibly see the frustration on his face as that series progressed. So I'm hoping that the Sion going to be a little bit more successful for him here this time around. But Evil Geniuses will round out their comp with the Malphite pick for Ssumday.
And this is a pretty good draft for both sides. I like the balance here. Malphite, they're matching tank to tank on top side. The ultimate for Malphite, though, is so good at countering a Jinx. This Jinx is going to have to worry about Malphite ultimate with Rakan, with Wukong, with Ahri. Even the Zeri, as far as AD carries go, it's one of the AD carries that can dive in and with the ability to traverse the walls. Literally everybody could be dogpiling on Luger. So CLG are definitely gonna have to have their work cut out for them in trying to ward their flanks, trying to set up and peel for this Jinx so that they actually get to fire off rockets.
Let's rock and roll. CLG versus Evil Geniuses. Best of 5. Winner gets to move forward. Loser is done until summer. Evil Geniuses finally back in the studio, back to healthy status here, and we're hoping that their gameplay has recovered from the past couple of weeks as well. CLG already got to play against Cloud9 in the upper bracket, fell to them 3-1, and they want to be able to run back a more successful attempt on the best of 5 here up against the recovering EG.
All right, and we got Luger with the cleanse as well because all of those backline access CC abilities here on the side of Evil Geniuses. No level 1 shenanigans thus far. I see no sweepers. So this should probably just be a shallow invade to get the classic Raptor ward here for the side of CLG. They will do that, but it's not going to provide a tremendous amount of value because Jojo also saw them place it, so Inspired knows what information he will be giving away.
And as we're waiting on everything to kick off with minions just about ready to spawn, we've got Revenge standing by for a sideline interview with Freeze. Let's check it out.
Hey, buddy.
Hi guys, I'm actually here with head coach of EG, Freeze. Fun fact, I actually got coached by his twin brother last year, Nightshare. So I kind of know how his brain works with the draft. It's a pretty insane draft, I will say. So how are you feeling about today's series?
Well, we just have to care. We haven't played in the studio for 3 weeks, so I'm kind of excited to see how the boys do. We drafted very easy comp to execute in the first game, so it should be fairly easy to get them into the comfort zone after such a long break and after we were sick. The only threat really is like Taliyah combo on Zeri or Jinx somehow carrying, but I think Jinx can't really play the game versus Malphite, Wukong, Ahri, and Rakan. It's very hard for her. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're confident today. You know, a lot of fans are probably really happy to hear that as well. You know, we've been excited to see EG come back in their true form and, you know, see some of these players, especially Jojo, you know, bring it back. So, yeah, just, you know, thanks a lot for giving us that insight.
No worries.
Now, we did just see, the only thing we kind of missed there during the interview is the invade, the level 1 invade from Ssumday. Right. Just a brute force. Rock invade, a little bit of damage dealt to Contractz and forcing Contractz to use Smite on the blue. Not really going to hurt Vi at all, though. Vi is a pretty self-explanatory, safe clear, and still has the potion as well in inventory, so isn't going to really do much to him. Interesting, though, that Inspired left his red on top side as he was clearing down towards the bottom side of the map on the Wukong. So he's going to have a very delayed first red pickup for the Wukong. That could mean he really wants to make use of level 4 red buff power to try and actually get a gank off. And that top lane tank match is actually trading really, really low, so much more volatile than usual. Could be him traversing over towards this area.
And I mean, that's what's going to happen when you have a level 1 invade from top lane. Yes, even if nobody's going to die, you're trading autos back and forth. People are going to be lower health than they might otherwise be. So Inspired's going to find himself on Scuttle Crab here in the top side.
And we've had quite a few, especially in CLG games, surprise ganks towards top side in tank versus tank matchups, where not a lot of them are used to seeing those happen. And so this is a good ward from Dhokla. Since Contractz has bottom Scuttle Crab, they have to assume Wukong path back towards their top side, got the top Scuttle Crab. Dhokla, nice timing on that, finds Inspired, and so it will just be the regular Scuttle Crab trade.
So one thing that I want to talk about a little bit here, while we don't really have a whole lot going on, is I like the fact that we have Vulcan on the Rakan here in the bottom lane. We were talking about expecting seeing a Lulu next to Zeri, how that's generally the pairing, but I put Vulcan into that same category of support player that I do Core JJ, where it's like, it's not that I think he's bad at enchanters, he's just so important for his team, being able to decide when they want to go in, when he can find some sort of a flank or an engage angle, and I think EG always looks their best with Vulcan on playmakers.
And right there, we see a 2-for-1 summoner spell trade, which, if you know basic math, you would think is bad, but but getting the flash off of this Jinx is going to be the single most important summoner spell in the game, and if you look at where Wukong is right now, Inspired is clearing his left up red, so it's a super delayed red, into the second spawn of Krugs, and then going for a recall. So now you know your jungler is coming back down towards the bottom side. So even though you traded a Ghost and your support flash for the Jinx flash, you also know that your jungler is going to be coming down to your side of the map. And EG are going to have bottom side jungle pressure, while CLG have top side jungle pressure.
We'll keep our eyes on this down here and see if they can punish this flashless Jinx, find something here in those next 3.5 minutes or so to make this really pay some dividends. Up here in the top side, Dhokla's just going to grab himself a Demolish proc real quick, utilizing the power of the push that he had, as well as the fact that his own jungler was ready to shadow him, just make sure that Inspired wasn't going to get up to anything up there. Jojo and Palafox both level 6, tons of roaming potential on both of these mid laners. We know that Taliyah loves to just interfere in bottom lane, make the Weaver's wall trip down there. Ahri very adept at being able to join up in what would otherwise be a 2v2 or 3v3 skirmish as well.
And we know also that the Taliyah is so much more reliant on her jungler to get kills than is the Ahri. Jojo, so self-sufficient on the Ahri. You can set up your own kills, but really, Palafox is looking at Contractz' level and waiting for Vi level 6 to know that that's our guaranteed kill. And EG are going to try and take that advantage as far as Inspired being down towards the bottom side quadrant for the clear. Bottom side just got their reset off for their purchase, so they slip in on their dragon timing. Good deep wards here for Evil Geniuses as well to support this.
Yeah.
And they're able to pull it off. Contractz still powering away, looking for that level 6 so he can get the setup there for the Taliyah W.
Not a lot of risk there for Evil Geniuses in taking that objective. I like the setup. I like how they made that decision. They also made it early enough to not have to trade objectives. Excuse me. No handshake for the Rift Herald across the map. We'll see if they want to contest for that here in about a minute's time, too, as Inspired's going to grab another Scuttle Crab there on the top side, as both of our top laners do have their own ultimates available. Remember that Sion, even though both the teleports are down, we see the best Sion players in the league always try to cheat down into the river if they see something happening anywhere else, so they can join up with an ulti.
Yeah, and my personal favorite Sion play too Once they get their second teleport ready, they just walk down bottom side, and you can ultimate through lane, then teleport right back up to your top lane so you don't lose anything. It's one of the only champions in the game for top lane that can still make pre-14-minute bottom lane plays without being punished because of that ultimate. And so always like to see that used. It kind of gives you that old flavor of before the least teleports were introduced into the games and top laners got to make bottom side plays all the time. And see if we get that one this time around from Dhokla and from CLG.
Ooh. Got ourselves a little bit of 1v1 action here in mid as Palafox gets hit with the charm, but Jojo doesn't have the cooldowns and the mana to follow it up with a whole lot more. I like the fact they're both looking for these angles, though, even just in the 1v1 scenario with each other. You do have the level 6 for the Vi, you do have the level 6 for the Wukong, and it's not just Wukong here in the enemy jungle. Inspired's got Vulcan right next to him, and they want to steal away this red buff. Contractz, however, is not just going to accept that.
It's a really good bluff from Contractz there. He's charging his Q to try and make them run away, to make them think someone's behind him. Because EG don't have vision on CLG's bottom lane right there, so Contractz was purely bluffing right there. There's no way he ever takes that in 2v1, and so when that Q times out, then EG turn around and they say, oh, he was just bluffing, we can finish off, take the red, and gank mid.
Palafox is able to clear enough distance to get away in time. Remember, Vulcan only level 5. No quickness means you can't just jump in, go after the CLG mid laner that easily. Palafox does still have the flash as well. Both junglers still with the cooldowns available on the ultis. And the Rift Herald is spawned. Evil Genius is fine with committing all 5 men towards this part of the map to make a play for it. As you can see, Dhokla's in bottom, but he's walking up the river with the Sion. This is what we were talking about. CLG may still want a challenge for this. Herald at 3,000.
They made the call. Look at the minimap. Sion's heading back to bottom, so they're going to trade a turret plate for this Rift Herald. That is a big win for EG. So far, EG looking like they have recovered quite nicely.
Oh! And Poome just gets chain CC'd. Wild Growth will keep him alive for an extra second or two here, but the auto attack in the air is good, and it's first blood over to Jojo.
Yeah, that's a no flash Lulu with no friends around mid lane Flowers.
Damn, no flash, no friends.
No flash, no friends. Even a Moo jealous there, but Malphite setting up Jojo with the ultimate into immediate charm. There's no counterplay there for Poome. It's caught out, picked off. Nice snipe here from Evil Geniuses. So far this game, they are getting literally everything they want.
Holy moly, man. Evil Geniuses ready to go. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted this team to be back in form. I wanted these guys to look closer to their peak than what we got to see the past couple of weeks. And it looks like they're off to a solid start here, as Luger and Poome are now just going to take up their spot here on the opposite side of the map, as we've seen everything go topsy-turvy. Meanwhile, back in mid, Jojo continuing to try to keep the pressure on Palafox. The mid laners are dead even at 106 farm, top of the table for both teams. Both of these guys really maxing out on those resources as Vulcan and FBI try to establish some vision control here in the top side of the map. Contractz is ready to clear that right back out.
Yeah, it's a very difficult game here. Contractz is looking to try and use Vi ultimate ever since level 6. But he doesn't have a lot of great targets. You know, in the mid lane, Ahri with an ult charge will be able to create more space. Even though if the Vault Breaker lands, then you would be able to 100% the Ahri with a follow-up from the Taliyah. That extra distance makes it so much more difficult for the Taliyah to get into range to be able to follow up on it. And the only other place you're looking is at the Zeri, who's been kept very safe here. Vulcan, you just talked about him getting that advanced vision and allowing FBI a lot of extra space here. So CLG still have not found an area to pull out the Taliyah or the Vi offensive capabilities for this draft that they have. And as a consequence, Evil Geniuses should be able to set up for Dragon number 2 as well and continue to take pretty much every neutral objective on this map, including a red buff steal, by the way, with some good timing for themselves. Teleport is available here for Ssumday. Of course, we are pre-14 minutes, so while Sion will have a better ease of access towards a dragon fight by walking down and going with the ultimate, you still can teleport to your own turret.
Yeah, the big deal about the Vi ulti not being able to find those targets, it's the same reason Vi is picked into Zeri. You can follow her everywhere no matter what, but you will have to follow her wherever she decides to go. It's the same thing with Ahri. Zeri rides over a wall, finds herself under a turret. Sorry, you're getting shot. Ahri dashes underneath the turret. Sorry, you're getting shot. There's a lot of opportunities for Vi to end up in hot water if she goes too far. So CLG, they need the right angle here. The problem is their engage mechanisms are severely limited compared to what Evil Geniuses has. It's so much easier for EG to pick a fight, win, where, and how they want to. It's what we heard from Coach Freeze when he was talking to Revenge, saying, yeah, there's a low barrier of execution here. We should just be able to do whatever we want. Palafox will fire Weaver's Wall into the river here. It does not separate anyone from EG. All 4 players remain on the left side of the wall. CLG is still thinking about a contest here. Teleports are available for both top laners, but the teleports are not unleashed. They have to be on a turret. The Drake goes over to EG, but now CLG are ready to fight. Inspired, still doing just fine. Drops most of the damage there on the clone. Now has to get back away. Contractz is able to disengage. As over the wall comes Ssumday, and the kills are coming through. Supports are dead on both sides, but the rockets are flying, and EG's got to try to get away. Inspired and Ssumday both barely hanging on as more damage pours into FBI's health bar. Evil Geniuses may have got the Drake, but CLG takes the fight.
CLG get +1 extra kill, and they will get to push out the lanes, but that's about it. Rift Herald used here in the mid lane. It must have been about to time out there for Evil Geniuses, because that sucker is not going to get turret play value.
No.
Dhokla and Palafox are there to welcome Shelly to Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, this is not a very polite welcome party, man. Welcome. Get the hell out of here.
All right, Jojo and Vulcan gonna try and protect her.
R.I.P. Shelly. In the arms of the angels, fly away from here.
Don't escort mission has failed, Flowers. All right. Mission failed, but look at the setup here. So, again, they can fight this on pretty even grounds. Let's take a look at the Smite fight. Inspired gets it with the combo there. Both of them using their smites. Then we go for the Contractz, Vi plus Taliyah combo, and while they get FBI, they don't have extra DPS there to focus him, so he flashes out, then forces Contractz to the other side, and Poome is going to be the only sacrifice here for CLG, because the 2 kind of areas of combat on this fight, CLG are able to take out the other side and then move over towards FBI. It could have been worse if that Luger rocket had a tiny bit more damage to be able to get Luger excited and chase down the rest of them there for the extra kills. But CLG still come out with 1 extra kill, so a lot of them towards the top of the gold charts. I would still be pretty happy if I was Evil Geniuses, though, to be able to get the dragon and only being -1 on kills.
Yeah, Evil Geniuses happy with the current state of things with the Drake. They've controlled 3 out of 3 neutral objectives so far. Of course, I'm only really going to give them credit for about 2.5 since the Herald got a whole lot of nothing summoned up in mid like it did. But we still have no turrets taken from either side just yet. The plates are gone, so I expect to see teams start to overload one side of the map, start to look for an opportunity there. You are going to have your second Rift Herald spawning now, and it is CLG who are now first to the scene. Evil Geniuses nowhere nearby. Looks like this is going to go over uncontested, and we'll see if CLG can have better Herald usage than their opponent.
Yeah, let's see about it. Sometimes, you know, we've all been there. Eyeballs counting down. You just want to get it out on the map. It looks like CLG have a suspicion. Look at this question mark ping. CLG, they must have seen the last area that Inspired was in to have a suspicious thought.
Yeah.
That they're kind of hiding up there. Wukong and Ahri snuffed out of the brush, so nobody will drop to that. But it is just going to be kind of reverse setting here on the reset. Tanks swap down to the bottom side. Top side river has been cleared out by CLG, and they're making another move for the exact same play.
They want to try to find this Vi ulti angle. Everfrost onto Palafox. Contractz goes in, but they don't hit the seismic shove. Now Inspired might have the chance to get something back. Drops the clone to guarantee his own escape. CLG, they went for it there. They had the backup from Poome to be able to guarantee that Contractz wouldn't die, but they do not find either one of their marks. The exhaust coming out of what I believe was JoJo's Summoner's Spellbook there ended up doing them some favors in stopping Contractz from dealing meaningful damage and allowing them to make enough distance to not let CLG have their wombo combo. Big Dokes running down mid lane, tries to go after FBI, but he'll just hop, skip, jump right back over the wall. But this did buy CLG enough time, take down the first turret of the game here in the top lane, and build themselves up to a 1.5 thousand gold lead with less than 1 minute before the third Drake spawns.
Yeah, the key part about that is it's a much better swap for CLG because of that timing. Like you say, Dragon's coming up. Now it's only 40 seconds left on it, and you just got that tower money into your Jinx. So this stopwatch here for Luger, definitely going to be in a very good position. Double summoner spells plus stopwatch on the Jinx for CLG. And Evil Geniuses, although they would love to keep Dragon stacking, it is going to be a little bit more difficult, and we'll see about these flanks, see about this backline access, because Inspired without the Wukong ultimate and Contractz without the Vi ultimate, both pretty big utility spells for these team fights.
And the big thing to watch in every 5v5 team fight this game is Luger. Jinx is the main character. Everybody on EG's job is to kill this dude, and it looks like Evil Geniuses are committing a teleport from Jojo to see what they might be able to find. Luger is excited, firing rockets into FBI, who now has to retreat. Evil Geniuses wanted to go for a collapse, but they're too scattered, and CLG is regrouped in the Drake now.
Exactly. Poome gonna face check.
Poome face checks, but he sidesteps the charm, and now Contractz is ready to chase down the enemy mid laner. Vulcan wants to get away with the quickness, and Jojo is trying to use the ulti charges to find his own escape. They flash in, and Poome gets the kill. Jojo's back in the dirt, and CLG's back in the driver's seat.
I actually wish for the last minute we had like a turbo zoom out to see the entire map, because there were so many funny little things going on that you could tell from the mini map. As they were chasing, Contractz was chasing Jojo through the two towers. Inspired was trying to sneak the dragon that was half leashed out of the dragon pit, and then Dhokla went over to scare him off of it. That's not yours, hands off. CLG, they defend their dragon, plus they get the chase down kill onto the Ahri, and they get the side turret here for Palafox. So many little things also being set up by, thank you, I hope this replay is the Rift Herald play, good. Okay, so this thing, one of the good things you can do with Jinx is use a Rift Herald killing a turret just to get the Jinx excited. Look at how much damage he puts into FBI and chases Zeri out of the map. So now you're left in a situation as EG, you're so spread out. You've got members all over the place. Up here, down here, all over the place.
Everywhere.
Narnia has been spread to the four winds. And Jojo then, when Vulcan and him get face checked by Poome, because Poome dodges out on the charm, it's actually them that is in a dangerous situation there. In CLG, they just chase off these scattered members of Evil Geniuses and are able to take everything. One tower, plus one dragon, actually plus two towers, counting the Rift Herald one at mid as well as the bottom one, and the extra kill. Really, really massive swing here in the mid game for CLG.
And the second completed item for Luger is the Runon's Hurricane. Usually you see this for Jinx when she's expecting to just get dove by an entire buffet full of meatballs, and that's what's happening this game. It's gonna be Malphite, Wukong, Ahri, Zeri, Rakan. Every single one of these dudes is trying to get in your face and take you out immediately. You're gonna get a lot of value out of the AoE from these rockets splashing all over the entirety of the enemy team, but only if you stay alive. Luger's been doing a good job of it so far, but as the game goes forward, things will only get more and more threatening, more and more scary from a Jinx.
You can't splash damage onto EG members if they're all a screen apart from each other.
True.
That was the genius of it all as Palafox is going down.
Yep, Inspired, good job there finding the opportunity on the enemy mid laner. Flash for flash, Palafox tried to clear the distance, but Inspired could stick on top of him and guarantee that they picked one up. That's the third kill of the game for EG, gonna tie those kill counts up at 3-all.
Yeah, honestly, too, I feel like they could just hard push on bottom after that, but they're a little bit worried about this Baron. So they picked off the mid laner, they pushed the bottom wave into the turret there for Ssumday, and then have to come respect this move from CLG because Luger is so fed, and Contractz is also pretty fed here on the Vi, getting the first 2 kills for the CLG squad with the 4 members. They kind of threaten around. They have such good vision control there for CLG that EG can't get anything in addition to the extra kill. This wave dying to tower is pretty nice for them, though. That was more than a single wave. That was about 1.5 there, stacked up by Jojo, and he moves back in to try and get the objective, but will be chased off.
Ooh, we do have Weaver's Wall as Palafox and Contractz try to catch up to the enemy mid laner, but with Jojo popping the Summoner Spellbook Ghost and also having that Banshee's Veil to be able to get him out of trouble here so you can't just point and click on him with the Vi. I like that a lot. Going Banshee's Veil second item, yes, this is not a massive damage build between Everfrost and Ionian cooldown boots and Banshee's Veil, but it stops Vi from pressing R on you and then you immediately just having to head for the hills.
Yeah, it's interesting because you are also going to run into a scenario where EG, you want to at least have enough damage on whoever can hit Luger to actually be able to take down this Jinx. Through a Lulu ultimate, through the extra Lulu shields. And so hopefully, for their sake, they'll be able to still squeeze out enough damage while also being able to afford that defensive capability. We'll get another look next time EG are able to flank but not be so spread out that they could actually follow up on it. And if they're able to create these windows onto the CLG lineup, because CLG right now with the gold lead that they've established, they're already looking for how do we transition to set up for Dragon number 4 for us. 50 seconds in advance. Go for your recalls right now. They already have 3 control wards here in inventory. Contractz, he goes and does his duty as a jungler. There's 4 control wards for CLG now in inventory. And guess what? AD carries are exempt.
Yep.
Save every penny for an offensive item.
Buy more DPS, and that's exactly what they'll do. We got 30 seconds for the next Drake spawns. You can see Evil Geniuses and CLG both sending players down here to this river to try to establish some vision control. Scuttle Crab secured by Dhokla and Contractz is some of that unremovable vision. It's going to give CLG an edge as they fight for positioning and priority before the objective spawns. Inspired looking maybe for an opportunity to go for a wraparound here. Contractz just jumps right into the brush while Dhokla's going to be soaking damage from the other 4 players here on EG. You got one isolated guy on either side. Dhokla's able to disengage now as Contractz still looking for the extra damage here on Inspired. Ssumday swoops in. Luger's down. He's gone. CLG lost the only guy they couldn't afford to lose. And Evil Geniuses want to get some more. Poome sidesteps a charm, but it's already too late. EG win the fight.
CLG split themselves, Flowers. They have Dhokla fighting topside, Contractz seeking out Inspired on the bottom side, and that is so beneficial for the Evil Geniuses. Really good heads-up play there from Ssumday. Malphite with flash, with ultimate, finds Luger, immediately deleting the Jinx. The CLG player they need to kill the most. They find him in the spread fight, EG turning their attention away from the Sion. And look at this. You've got Dhokla up here towards the middle. He's gonna get stuck right here, but Contractz wants to kill Inspired off the other side. So then they end up fighting a war on 2 fronts. And Evil Geniuses, they're able to make this call to look down towards Inspired instead. And Ssumday, this Malphite flash, boom, boom, flash ultimate. Luger sits down, CLG's comp kind of crumbles at that point, and EG get the dragon.
Like I said, man, Jinx is the main character this game. She's got to stay alive for CLG to win. She's got to die for EG to win. If she's the first person dead in the team fight, everything's already done. Cut your losses if you're on the side of CLG. As Jojo goes over the wall and Poome's the target. Nice killer instinct from Evil Geniuses. Should set him up here for a kill. Poome's still somehow alive. That took way longer than it should have took. And now Inspired and Jojo and everybody else on EG's got to try to get away. Inspired's trying to spin to win, but Contractz is having none of it. Shut down back over to CLG's jungler, and it'll be 1 for 1. Poome lived so long.
If they could get vision on Jojo right now to pop a Jinx rocket, that would be the real capper on it. Jojo gets back though. He's got teleport. He can teleport back out as CLG off of the extra kill here on the jungler. Start up the Baron. They're inside the pit. EG circling. There is a Malphite ultimate ready.
Keep your eyes on Ssumday. That's huge. They cannot afford to have Luger get caught by this. Vulcan goes in for the knockup, finds it on Palafox. Luger's still keeping his distance. Dhokla charmed up here on the front line. Baron's still at about half HP. Inspired will be back alive in about 5 seconds. CLG are trying to commit, but EG want to push him off. FBI pops the ulti. Zeri's ready to go, but Poome's joined back up to reinforce the counter logic gaming line. Ssumday's going to be hit by the ulti coming out of Sion, but Ssumday now re-engaging, looking for the valuable targets. Dhokla's burning away, but Contractz goes on a rampage and FBI is dead. CLG still fighting as Ssumday stays alive just barely. Seismic Shove finally takes him out, and Contractz is going to be caught on the back end of the fight. Decimating smash over the wall does a whole lot of nothing, and with Luger and Contractz both down, EG are swooping in to clean up the rest. Palafox falls, and Inspired and Jojo are mopping everybody up.
It's Split!
What the hell are you doing,
Oh,
Dhokla?
lazy recall there. Inspired hits him with it. And Big Dokes becomes a zombie only to watch his blue buff be stolen away as well. That was such a scrappy one, Flowers. My goodness, both of them have one player reviving at the moment. So Lulu gonna head from base. Oh, this is the beginning of the play.
Yeah, all the way back.
This is all the way back where we see why both teams have players reviving. Lulu gets picked off first, but then CLG are able to trade that for the jungler, which leads to this whole setup on Baron because EG don't have their smite available. And this was the whole pick that we did see the first time around. Now we get to see the turn. Sion comes out from Baron, but Sion is so low that Ssumday does a counter engage onto the CLG backline and is able to set them up. So even though FBI drops, Jojo does so much work here on the Ahri, getting the resets on Ahri ultimates. Such a big change for her 4 team fights and allows EG to chase down the rest of them. Still though, it only ends up being +1 kill advantage for Evil Geniuses until the end. Until the laziness sets in.
Sloth is a deadly sin, Kobe. Emphasis on the dead part of that word. Unfortunately for Dhokla, that just means another respawn, another mistake here in this game that EG now has a 3-1 Drake lead on. They're on soul point, 55 seconds until a potential soul spawns. They are now up very modestly in gold. Nothing that you can bank any sort of faith in a team fight win on, but it's still elite.
And honestly, it's about how you're going to set up these team fights too. CLG, they cannot afford any more of these scattered, split up team fights where they're fighting on 2 different fronts. They want structure to their team fight, Flowers. They want order. Bring order to Summoner's Rift. EG, they've got such a mobility advantage that they love setting up these 2-pronged team fights or trying to pick somebody off first to be able to set up an opening where they can get all these flank angles around. Contractz here going right up the middle though.
Jojo is separated from the rest of EG, does have the opportunity to turn that into a flank angle if EG want to go in. Ssumday gets chunked out a little bit there by Palafox. Very important for Luger to stay away from Ssumday. Very difficult for Luger to stay away from Ssumday when he's got the Flash Malphite ult combo available. And Evil Geniuses are not shy about the current state of the game. They want to start up this Drake, and now you got Vulcan ready to go in. They're going to lock down Contractz as he tries to engage. He pops the stasis to survive. They throw out a little bit of that defensive crowd control, trying to get their man back out. But it's EG still on the Drake. They want to secure the soul right here. Down to 1,000 HP. There it is, secured by Inspired. Dhokla wants to engage, but Ssumday, again, finds a target. This time it's only Poome, but Luger's in the middle of everybody. Luger's going down. EG found the AD carry, and now what in the world is CLG gonna do about it? FBI gets found in response, and Palafox is still alive. Vulcan and Jojo wanna go in. Vulcan gets the knockup, and Palafox is not long for this world. Jojo doesn't have a lot of mana to work with, and Inspired finds the kill. Absolutely clutch from the Evil Geniuses jungler. Dhokla does not have the damage to do much else. They're gonna stagger the death timers. They're just gonna keep him here and screw with him a little bit. It's an ace for EG.
Damn, Inspired. Oh my goodness. He hits him with the thumbs down after he styles on him with the Wukong EQ stopwatch. Bonks him on the head, and Evil Geniuses on top of the soul are able to get the last of the outer towers remaining. That is a very rich Wukong, Flowers. Guardian Angel completed now for the MVP jungler. Let's take another look at how it starts out. So, CLG, they just used their Vi ultimate plus Taliyah combo here with not being able to get much. They did get the Zeri ultimate down, which is kind of big, but EG still get the Dragon Soul. Then Dhokla into the middle, doesn't find anybody, and the counter initiation for Ssumday again goes right up the middle. Jojo follows, they section off Luger into the rest of the team, and after they take down the Jinx to try and trace forward, they just have to watch out for the minefield here that is set down by Taliyah. Contractz still able to finish off the kill onto FBI, but then Ahri resets, and here, look at this. They section off EG. Jojo and Vulcan leave Inspired, but he goes in. EQ, Divine Sunderer plus the Triumph plus the fully stacked Conqueror, and he heals back up to 50% by the end of that fight.
Divine Sunderer heals are a little goofy when you're hitting massive walls of health like a Sion or a Cho'Gath or something. But EG, back to live. They're on to the Baron. Contractz looking for the opportunity to steal this one away. He knows that they're going to need to do some sort of a crazy move at some point here. Contractz goes over the wall. Contractz goes into the ground as Dhokla now finds himself caught in the middle of 5 Evil Geniuses players. It could take him a while to clear this. Okay, Sion's just going to go ahead, flash out. Dhokla leaves this behind, but it will be Baron plus a kill on the enemy jungler going the way of Evil Genius.
What a fun game, Flowers. It's been a while since we've been able to preach about the Evil Geniuses team fighting, but they're showing up in this game again after CLG had taken control through the midfield. Really, really good comeback there from EG in consecutive fights.
And if we remember back to last spring, which is when EG won that first title, even after not having the most impressive regular split, it's because of the fact that they were team fight gods, right? You had Jojo and Danny just outperforming everybody mechanically on these carry rolls. You had Inspired and you had Vulcan being able to find the engages and the angles over and over and over and over and over again. And then you had Impact in the top lane constantly being the rock that they could rely on. These guys, if they're in their team fight element, that's how they win games of League of Legends, and it's a lot of fun to see.
Definitely has been fun this time around. CLG not completely out of it yet. The Dragon Soul definitely going to be annoying with all the extra speed for these super mobile champions, so that it will be a very, very difficult factor to overcome, but they can still try and hope for that big reset fight, try and bide their time, look for objective bounty shutdowns. Right now, the map is very dark, though, especially in red quadrant, so Poome's got to be super scared there.
He can be super scared or he can be super dead. Either way, Evil Geniuses are happy about it. Contractz has to retreat back over the wall into the safety of his base. 1.5 minutes on this Baron buff, and EG are looking to find even more.
Gotta train yourself to look for these little jungle pets now. Junglers, I know, I definitely relate. It is very annoying when your little jungle pet gives you away, but people should be training themselves to look for these as well.
Should be training their pets better. Yeah, stay in the bush.
The pets don't fall. It's really annoying because if you go up next to a wall, never mind.
We already got the fight breaking out. Dhokla finds himself caught, and I don't think there's any way out of it now. Inspired goes godlike. Incredible performance from him here in this first game. Ssumday, all the meanwhile, is just smacking on the mid lane tier 3 turret, setting him up for the next objective, but they might not even need it. With a 5v4, they're going to look straight for Nexus turrets now. Evil Geniuses wanting to end game number 1. First Nexus turret about to die. Contractz can't get any sort of an engage angle as Palafox throws out the Weaver's wall. Ssumday's going to be knocked back into the team, but he finds the knockup on Luger, and that's all you've got to do. CLG collapse. And Evil Geniuses show us that they are ready to go. Lower bracket start or not, they started with a good win here against CLG. They'll pad the stats a little bit. Got to make sure your momentum's ready. Got to make sure everybody's feeling it. Grab another kill there on the Contractz. Go for some demoralization. Evil Geniuses 21-9, 10,000 gold up, 4 Drakes to 1. Just end the damn game. I'm getting tired of talking. Hit the Nexus. Dhokla's going on a magical journey to the middle of nowhere, and he ain't even playing Bard. GG! Evil Geniuses win the first one.
Evil is back, baby! Evil Geniuses have returned to the LCS stage, Flowers. They have reconnected. And CLG continuing off of yesterday's Jinx focus, and we saw Jinx deleted. Again. Hard champion to keep safe.
Against Wukong and Malphite and Ahri and Rakan, oh hell yeah. And I think that's one of the issues. I want to go back to what you were saying at the very beginning of the game when Contractz got level 6 and we never saw these Vi ults coming in for a long time how we wanted because there just wasn't a good target. This, I think, is one of the problems of just saying, okay, slam Vi, blue side round 1 pick. We don't see anything they've got, and they end up drafting this situation that makes it difficult to play that champion to the efficacy that you would want.
Yeah, and he's got a really good game. That was he still got a lot of picks on EG carries, but since they didn't have the damage follow-up after getting assassinated at the beginning so many times, EG take game 1. That's just the opener, though. This is a full best of 5.
And with that one done, Vive la LCS! LCS in Espanol is the official Spanish language stream of the LCS. This new viewing experience is live on LLA's Twitch and YouTube channels right now. Scan the QR code or go to lolesports.com to learn more. But with that taken care of, we're going to head back over to the LCS lounge to break down game 1.
welcome back to the lounge. That was an excellent performance by EG. Take game one, restoring our faith in them. Mo is here to actually break down one of their fights because it wasn't always super easy for EG. There were a few mistakes, so take it away.
Yeah, and I mean, CLG still putting up a fight in these games, or in this game, at least at this point. This is honestly, I would say, one of EG's main pain points this game, and it was actually starting with a really creative play by them. If you look here, Malphite actually starts his TP on the bot turret, and it's really important that when he's doing this, that these four kind of hold this area and zone to not overcommit, but to kind of make time for him. But they kind of went a little too fast and gave Vi kind of a deep angle, but if you watch here, I actually think that this fight isn't even terrible for EG, but I think that Zeri definitely played on the wrong side. I think if FBI played on their right side, it would have been a much different fight. But if you watch it play out, it still is really close with Malphite. Also, I think probably could have solo killed Jinx if he went on her. I know he's a little chunked, but I feel like this was probably their only real, pain point in the game. But after this, I feel like they kind of continue to just dominate the whole game. And this kind of, if they end up cleaning this up and they end up not making plays like this, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a really smooth series for EG. And definitely pretty concerning for CLG.
Yeah, it's super interesting because the mid jungle hard carried this game. And you were mentioning during the draft, when we were just chatting amongst ourselves, that FBI hasn't played a lot of Zeri. And EG hasn't necessarily prioed. And there were definitely multiple moments in the game, including that one where he ulted early, didn't necessarily reset fights, but the team was still able to win.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the team won because I gotta give huge credit to Inspired and Jojo.
Yes.
This was the mid-jungle 2v2 that everyone was super hyped about after last year. All split long, it's what we wanted to see, and they were absolutely locked in. You're gonna see just the most insane Inspired stats when they show them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the big thing for me was that the early game, there were so many small things that they were doing to try to snowball their lead, or like just have mid-jungle control so that when we saw CLG be successful, it was through Contractz making a lot of early proactive moves, right? He was incredibly quiet in this game, and a lot of that had to do with Inspired and Jojo.
Yeah, completely agree. There's one thing that, I mean, the casters talked about when it came to the draft, the Malphite being a major pick here. Malphite, Rakan, Wukong, I don't know how Luger lives in these fights. It's actually just unwinnable.
Yeah, and Ssumday found some really good angles in these fights. I remember one of them was just a quick flash R on Jinx in a fight that was looking kind of 50-50. And I feel like this pick, this Malphite pick, and the reason we're seeing it so much is because people are playing immobile AD carries more. Like, they're playing Jinx more. Sometimes we're seeing Aphelios being picked with Thresh. I feel like the more we see this, the more popularity Malphite's going to bring, especially if people are blinding tanks, which Dhokla did this game. He blinded the Sion, which we can talk about as well. I do think trying to get Dhokla more on something that can have influence, like put, for example, Malphite more behind like K'Sante blind. Yeah. Because if he blinded K'Sante this game, a Malphite was still going to be picked.
Yep.
And if you want to avoid that altogether, then you can kind of put him on like, hey, just blind a carry, blind an R, shake things up, right? But that's when we kind of go into, you know, his champion pool, what they're scared of Ssumday playing as well, right? Yeah. Because Ssumday does have a lot of answers to carry blinds if you don't set it up properly.
And I absolutely love the Malphite pick. It's something I've enjoyed watching over in LPL as well. We'll see what CLG think their answer is here. They have selected blue side going into the next game. And as we head to the break before game 2, let's hear from Inspired on what drives him almost a year removed from his first LCS title last spring.
Inspired. Inspired, 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 inspired! Hot damn, this man's good at League of Legends.
I didn't really expect to come to LCS. I think after 2.5 years playing in Rogue, I just wanted to change the environment, change the teammates, and change like everything around me. On Rogue, everyone said that I was just the best player on the team, and the moment I left, people are already saying that Rogue will not manage to like play well or stuff like that. I think that was not really the case that much. I think on Rogue, everyone was pretty good. So when I came here for the first time, I felt like I had way more like impact on the game than I had on Rogue.
Cloud9 has already turned into the start of a Drake. They're looking to burn it down, but it's stolen by Inspired. LEC MVP and champ for a reason.
I think after like half a year of playing, I already had very high expectations to myself. I thought that I can easily be the best in the league if I just put everything I can into the game.
Our LCS Summer 2022 MVP, Evil Genius's jungler, Inspired.
The moment I got the MVP, I just felt like, yeah, I did my job, and it's actually surprising because there is no other player that won MVP in both leagues. So for sure, it's something very special. I mean, usually the most popular players get the most credit. I think I'm just somewhere in the middle. People that actually know a lot about the game, they know how good I am, and if someone thinks differently, I don't really bother changing their opinions. I think me and Jojo are good friends because we both play League very well, and that's why we basically like each other. I also feel like he's pretty similar to myself when I was at the first steps of my career, so I can see all the things that he's doing wrong, and I'm trying to teach him so he doesn't make the same mistakes that I was making when I was in his position.
Jojo, got him. There it is. That's all you needed to do. I would think it's first blood over to Inspired, and Jojo set it up.
I really need to stop him from making mistakes because he's the guy that really wants to make plays all the time. I need to let him go when it's actually good and try to stop him, hold him a bit back when I think we shouldn't be making aggressive plays. So it's kind of a good fit for me because I think I have good eye for the game. I think when I came here for the first time, I already knew that I would be put in the position to be a leader of the team. I am coming with 2 rookie players on carry positions. I knew that they will learn a lot from me if I give them the opportunity to. I think I did well, the part of my job.
You can see Inspired wrapping all the way around. Vulcan is down to 400 HP. He has to flash. It's first blood to the geniuses. This is what I love to see from my MVP junglers.
I'm still looking for more MVPs and more trophies, so I guess it's just the beginning.
Red Bull gives you wings. Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
We have to tell everyone that we just switched to Verizon's new Welcome Unlimited plan for just $30.
I've already told everyone.
Wait, did you say Verizon for just $30?
It's their best unlimited price ever.
$30? That's awesome. Yeah, and it's from the most reliable 5G network in America.
For $30 a line, I'm switching now.
Yeah, it's easy. And you get $960 when you switch the whole family.
Wow, I gotta let my buddies know.
We're already here.
The network you want, the price you love, only from Verizon.